A South African and worldwide year of Jubilee in which all debts have to be cancelled. The dawning of a new era. It's true, no debt. But first it requires a little explanation with some surprising new and very relevant information. To start with, it would be safe to say that South Africa and the world are not secure and not prosperous for all its many and diverse peoples. In South Africa, those people are the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Boer, British, who are all Israelite people, and the non-Israelites who live with them, from Africa and from other parts of the world. So why the distinction between Israelites and others? It's because those Israelites have something very directly to do with the poor state of South Africa and of the world. The word British is not English. It is Hebrew and means covenant people, Brit-ish, which was the covenant/contract given to Moses and those Israelites at Mount Sinai, which they swore to keep, Deuteronomy 29 verses 10 to 15, which they have not done. Israel is the name of a people, not a country. Genesis 32 verse 28, and he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. And Israel means champion of God. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And the name Israel is now associated with Jacob's 12 sons and their descendants, who are the tribes of Israel, of which 10 of those tribes are the commonly known lost tribes of Israel. All indications are that the descendants of the 10th son of Jacob, Naphtali, settled in South Africa. Genesis 49 verse 21. Naphtali is a hind let loose, he giveth goodly words. And a hind is a buck. And a hind let loose is a springbuck or a springbok. And Genesis, being the first of the 5 books of Moses, is part of the law. And the springbok emblem is now partly being rejected. Naphtali being in South Africa, confirmed in prophecy again to Abraham. Genesis 28 verse 14, And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, the USA, and to the east, Australia and New Zealand, and to the north, Canada, and to the south, South Africa, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. This blindness of true Israelites to their identity was prophesied in Romans 11 verse 25. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness as to their true identity is happened to a part of Israel, the 10 lost tribes, the house of Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. For a full list of all the tribes/countries of true Israel, who mostly don't know who they are, please refer to http://jartruth.net/Abraham, and Jartruth is spelt Jahtruth. It will become clear that none of these tribes have kept the laws of God, their covenant, and have been cursed by losing their identity and in other ways, because they set a bad example for the rest of the world by not living God's law, so they could not demonstrate the beautiful benefits/blessings of the law for everyone to see. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Things are going wrong in South Africa, and maybe everyone is looking in the wrong places. All solutions are with God, the only person who can lead people in safety to freedom. God promised to protect any people who keep his covenant. Distress comes from breaking that covenant. And God can see the rebellion against him by his laws/covenant being rejected, with the old and new South African flags being flown with the wrong colors on top, and lately with the rejection of the whole of the old South African flag, more about that later, and with the springbok emblem being partially sidelined. When a people are in distress, they fly their flag upside down to send a signal that they need help, which would be a good idea because the old South African flag and the ANC flag Both have the orange and the red where the blue should be. Blue is God's color, symbolizing the sky where he lives. White symbolizes the clouds. Orange and red symbolize the blood-stained earth of the red devil, Satan's domain. Revelations 12, verses 1 to 9. So to regain God's protection, and to show him that the rebellion has stopped, the flags have to be flown with the blue at the top. His law/covenant has to be reinstated. More about this reinstatement later. And the springbok emblem should be treated with the respect that it has earned from prophecy. It's that simple. The simple answer is normally the correct answer. But first, a bit more about the old South African flag. There is something in it that is critically important, but it will require a little explaining. So here goes. Christ said in the New Testament that he is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, and the New Testament was written in Greek. God said in Isaiah 44 verse 6, the Old Testament, that he is the first and the last, and the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph, and the last letter is Tau or Tav. So to the letters. The first Hebrew letter, Aleph, begins to represent a diagonal cross. In Aramaic, Aleph more closely resembles a diagonal cross, and Aramaic was a mixture of the Semitic languages in the region at that time. And a simple form diagonal cross written in blood would be a red diagonal cross. The last letter, Tau or Tav, begins to represent an upright cross, like the letter T. And by the time of Ezekiel, that letter Tav far more closely resembled an upright cross, like the T without the tail. And an upright cross written in blood would be a red upright cross. So why written in blood? It is because it is the blood that saves, the blood that was smeared on the doorposts of the Israelite houses in Egypt when the angel of death passed over, protecting the Israelites, and the blood of Jesus that saved Israel for a second time when he died on the cross for their sins. When simple form Aleph and Tau are combined, they represent an upright cross placed on a diagonal cross, which is then a marker to show the world where God has put his mark, and who his people are, or were supposed to be his people by their actions. And that marker is the British flag, with a blood-red crossed cross, which is painted on the white clouds, in which Christ will finally appear for all to see, with a blue sky behind, which is heaven, Christ's home. Which is the real reason why the British flag is inside the old South African flag. Furthermore, South Africa is still technically a part of the British Commonwealth, surprise, surprise, because its advocates and judges are all members of the Bar, and Bar stands for British Accreditation Register, of which so-called Queen Elizabeth is the head, and she has allowed human legislation above the law/covenant of God. Anyone who believes in and follows human legislation/law is subservient to the threat of its courts, including the President of the country, hence Elizabeth's ultimate authority. So God's law has to be reinstated, because Elizabeth and the true Israelites have not done it. God's law specifically forbids human legislation/law. Deuteronomy 4 verse 2. Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the I am your God, which I command you. Rejecting the old South African flag and Naphtali's prophesied symbol, and the birthright that goes with those, and symbolically placing Satan above God, with the orange and red at the top of the flags, and not following his law/covenant, insults God and incurs the penalty clauses, curses of the law on the rejectors, in other words the whole country, because that is what the law says it will do. Deuteronomy 11 verse 26. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. 11 verse 28. and a curse if ye will not obey the commandments of the I am your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known. Please see the blessings and curses page at jartruth.net. http://jartruth.net/blescur. The only solution is to go back to God's law and to fly the South African flags with the blue at the top, fly them in your homes if necessary, and to treat the Springbok emblem with respect. These actions will show God that the insults have stopped, and the, symbolic this time, blood that saves, of the red crossed cross in the British flag will save anyone who believes in God's signs, this time from job slavery, debt and crime, etc., in other words, being blessed. Those who champion God's cause will be the new Israelites, and they will be of all the world's races, colors, and nationalities. See Revelation 7 verse 9 for proof of that. If you are arrested for flying the old South African flag, there is an ironclad, bulletproof, and watertight South African court defense at http://j4justice.co.uk, and J for Justice is spelt JFORJUSTICE. They cannot argue lawfully against it and win, and they stands for the hierarchy enslaving you. The bulletproof court defense can now be found at http://thunder3h.wordpress.com. Thunder 3h is thunder with a number 3 followed by an h, and WordPress is one word. Just to confirm that the law of God, which will protect you, still stands. Matthew 5 verses 17 and 18. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no way pass from the law, until all be fulfilled. And the Quran also confirms the law. The Heifer 32 verse 23. We did indeed aforetime give the book, Torah, to Moses. Be then not in doubt of its, the Torah, reaching thee, and we made it a guide to the children of Israel. And with the internet, and the translation of the Quran and the authorized King James Bible into thousands of languages, the law of God has now reached everyone, and everyone has been afforded a warning. You can help to reinstate God's law. Muad'Dib, who is the author of all these truths, is asking the people of the world to join him on the 5th of November 2012 to declare a year of Jubilee in terms of God's law, Leviticus 25 verse 10, which is applicable to the whole of true Israel and anyone else who believes in God's law. In the Jubilee year, all debts have to be cancelled, amongst other things, which will eliminate poverty, as God's law demands, Deuteronomy 15 verse 4, to the end that there be no poor among you, for the I Am shall greatly bless thee in the land which the I Am thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. Worth repeating, no poor among you. Now please have a look at Muad'Dib's film, The Nazi Banksters' Crimes Ripple Effect, at http://j4justice.co.uk/banksters. And for more details about how you can help, please go to http://2012jubilee.info, which is 2012jubilee.info. Thank you. Further to J for Justice, you can also use .org or .net to get to the same site.